So, good evening, one and all, and good evening to our Professor Guru from India. And we have been discussing on political thought of Plato. So far, we have covered human nature, then the state. Then, in the previous class, we discussed the philosopher king. And today, the speaker will discuss on scheme of education and scheme of communism. And both are very important. Why I'm saying it is important, because we need to understand the contemporary education system and what the philosopher king should not have, right? And Plato is a reference point where one can find the purpose of education and the character of a philosopher king. Today we are the philosopher king. We professors are the philosopher king. So what we should have, what we should not have, we should learn from Plato. And certainly we will have interesting discussion especially in connection to communism. Especially in the last lecture, someone asked why Plato did not talk about communism of husband, why communism of wife is there. So I understand and I can know that today's lecture for the speaker, it will be very much challenging, because no doubt the speaker is saying that you are free to have your critical thought, but when you are talking about or you are saying on Plato's communism or Plato's education, then it is also the responsibility of the speaker to justify it, especially in the sense that why Plato has said in which context, right? So even if we contextualize ourselves in the context of Plato, then how we can convince ourselves can we really contextualize Plato today, right? So let's listen to him carefully, and at the end we should always try to ask question in connection to the talk. So with this, I am welcoming Professor Guru, and I request him to start his deliberation on these two concepts, scheme of education and scheme of communism. Yes, sir. Now you can continue.
Yes, my dear students, I welcome all of you to my class. At the same time, I would like to urge upon you again and again to listen to the discussions with utmost attention and sincerity. I would like you must bring your mind to this forum, not merely your physical body. Your physical presence without your mind, presence of your mind here, will not serve any purpose so far as the understanding of these concepts are concerned. I urge upon you to be utmost attentive, because your attention would facilitate easier understanding of the complexities and the logic of Plato's concepts in the context of his model state of the Republic. So far as today's discussions are concerned, as you have already been informed earlier, I would discuss today on Plato's scheme of communism and his scheme of education. These two concepts, these two schemes, I would like to club together, combine together today. Though normally I would have taken separate classes for these two concepts, yet because of paucity of time, want of time, caused by my preoccupations and personal engagements here in USA. I'm constrained to combine these together in a single class. Therefore, I would discuss these two concepts very briefly, and I need your utmost attention to listen to the discussions very carefully so that you can understand what Plato says and why he says so. You must understand the logic of Plato first. Then only you can undertake a critical estimation of his concepts and ideas. As regards these two concepts and schemes, Plato's scheme of communism and Plato's scheme of education, these two schemes are interrelated. These two schemes are interrelated because these are the schemes which Plato conceptualized and he prescribes it for his citizens, the citizens of his ideal state of the republic. Therefore, these two concepts pertain to the life and living of its citizens. And therefore, these two concepts are interrelated. And in this context, I would like to draw your attention to a few significant and distinguishing attributes which are common to these two concepts, his concept of communism and his concept of education. These two concepts are interrelated, again I insisted. And the first distinguishing common attribute which we noticed in these two concepts is that both these concepts are moral concepts. Moral concepts in the sense that both these concepts pertain to the citizens whom Plato considers as moral human beings. This is the basic assumption of Plato. The citizens of Plato's ideal state are moral human beings. Moral in this sense, they must contribute to the performance of their natural duties and functions for attainment of a life of virtue for the people of the society as a whole. And they must perform their functions selflessly in that context. So the objective is attainment of a life of virtue, a moral life, an objectively good human life for the people of the society as a whole, and the citizens are expected to work selflessly for attainment of that objective, that ultimate objective of the state. So the first thing to be noted, so far as these two concepts are concerned, these are interrelated because these are moral concepts pertaining to the citizens of Plato's ideal state. These are just like two sides of the same coin. These are the two sides of the moral life of the citizens of Plato's ideal state. One is the negative side, the other one is the positive side. So far as the scheme of communism is concerned, this is the negative side of the moral life of Plato's citizens, in the sense that it requires Plato's citizens to live a life of renunciation, sacrifice. Whereas the scheme of education is the positive aspect of that moral life of the citizens, because this scheme of education requires his citizens to live a life of enlightenment. One is a life of renunciation. Citizens are required to sacrifice something, renounce something, abnegate something. The other one is a positive aspect where citizens are required to learn and enlighten themselves in the context of living and leading a moral life for attainment of a life of virtue, and that too working selflessly for the good of all members of the society. So this is the first aspect it must be noted that both these concepts are moral concepts. One is a negative, the other one is a positive concept. And therefore they are interrelated. They are two sides of the same coin. The second aspect which must be noted is both these schemes, the scheme of communism and the scheme of education, these are state sponsored schemes, state owned schemes, state controlled and regulated schemes for the citizens. These schemes are operated by the states and are regulated in the life of the citizens of Plato's ideal state. So these are not private schemes. There is nothing to do with the private aspect of the life of the individual. Everything is state controlled. There is no privacy. That aspect also we have already discussed while discussing the Plato's composition of the ideal state. That Plato's citizens have no privacy in life. Everything is state controlled. Everything is state sponsored. They are required to live a life of utter selflessness in discharging their natural functions and duties for the good of the people as a whole. The third aspect, common aspect, which needs to be noted in this context is that both these schemes are compulsory schemes meant for the citizens, the total body of citizens of Plato's ideal state. Compulsory schemes. These are not only state sponsored and regulated and controlled, but also compulsory schemes for all citizens. All citizens must come under the domain and jurisdictions of these two schemes. There is no exemption. No one is exempted. No citizen is exempted. Every citizen is bound to undergo these two schemes. Since it pertains to all the citizens, therefore, without any exemption, Plato first proclaims the principle of gender equality because he finds that in his total body of citizens, there are male citizens and female citizens. But the then practice in ancient Greek city-states was females were considered as inferior individuals compared to the males. Females were not allowed to participate in public and political affairs of the state. The domain of the females was limited to household activities only, giving birth to children, procreating human species, doing household works, cooking, cleaning, washing, and maintaining the domestic animals. So all these menial works, household works were being done by females, and females were considered with a sense of inferiority. They were not considered as equal with males. Plato observed it. Therefore, he wished to rescue the females from the drudgery of from domestic household life. And he proclaimed the principle of gender equality for the first time. That all males and females are equal in their faculties of body and mind. So far as the total body of citizens is concerned, all female citizens and all male citizens are equal, he says. Though nature has made them unequal, so far as the natural endowments of the soul is concerned. Because so far as the pattern of distribution of the three natural elements are concerned, reason, spirit, and appetite, they may differ from individual to individual. But provided the pattern of distribution of these three natural elements in the soul of the individuals are same or similar, identical, a male citizen must be considered as equal to a female citizen. So he happens to be the first political thinker and intellectual of the world in very ancient time in 5th century BC to proclaim the principle of gender equality among the citizens. And that is why he is acknowledged as the first feminist of the world. So these three aspects, these are the common aspects, because all these three aspects pertain to the life and living of the citizens, the training of the citizens, that require the citizens to live a life of renunciation and sacrifice, that requires all citizens to live a life of enlightenment, that requires the citizens to specialize in the natural functions on the basis of the predominant element in the soul, and to work selflessly for the good of the people of the society as a whole. Therefore, these two concepts pertain to the citizens. And when we note that the scheme of communism as well as the scheme of education pertain to the citizens of Plato's ideal state, the republic, we must make ourselves aware of the fact as to the distinguishing attribute of citizenship in Plato's conceptualization, who in Plato's ideal state are entitled to citizenship. What are the distinguishing attributes? And Plato is of the opinion that an individual is entitled to citizenship provided he participates in the governing functions or the military functions of the state. If an individual doesn't participate in governing functions or military functions, he is deprived of citizenship. This is the distinguishing attribute of citizenship, he says. So, in Plato's ideal state, the state citizens are those individuals who participate either in the governing function or in the discharge of the military function. If you keep it in mind, that the total body of citizens of Plato's ideal state comprises of the members of the upper two classes only and exclusively. And what are the upper two classes? The ruling class as well as the military class. Therefore, we must here take into consideration the socio-political composition of a Plato's ideal state in finding out and delineating the total body of citizens of Plato's ideal state. It is composed of the rulers, the members of the ruling class, and also it is composed of the members of the military class, the soldiers. So the rulers and soldiers taken together who devote themselves to the discharge of the governing function as well as the military function constitute the body of citizens of Plato's ideal state. So citizenship is not given by Plato, is not granted by Plato to the members of the producing class. Because members of the producing class who represent the element of appetite are required by Plato to devote themselves to the function of production of goods and commodities, crops and grains of various kinds and types, and provide these goods and crops for the appropriation of all members of the state, including the rulers and the soldiers. But they do not participate. They are not expected to participate in the governing function or the military function of Plato's ideal state. Therefore, the members of the producing class are debarred from citizenship. So that body of individuals of Plato's ideal state, who by nature are intended to devote themselves to the function of production of goods and commodities, crops and grains, because of the presence of the predominance of the element of appetite in their soul. They are not given citizenship, rather they are called as subjects of Platonic ideal state. This is the distinction because the total population of Plato's ideal state is divided by him, classified by him into these two categories: citizen, a group of citizens, and a group of subjects. And Plato's scheme of education and his scheme of communism, these are applicable only to the citizens, not to the subjects. This point must be noted in understanding Plato's concept of communism or scheme of communism and his concept and scheme of education as well. Because these are the schemes which pertain to the citizens, not to the subjects. With these few distinguishing attributes, keeping in mind, we must proceed in understanding Plato's scheme of communism first. What is the scheme of communism? Why Plato felt impelled to conceptualize a scheme of communism for his citizens? The scheme of communism does not pertain to the members of the producing class. It is only meant for the citizens, the members of the ruling class and the members of the military class. You must bear it in mind because you can distinguish Plato's concept of communism and scheme of communism from modern communism as well. Yes, coming to Plato's scheme of communism. What is this scheme of communism? Oh, it is not a political ideology. It is a way of life. It is a way of life of the citizens of Plato's ideal state. And what type of life it is? It is a communistic life. A life which must be devoted by the citizens for the good of all, performing their natural functions, the governing function as well as the military functions, for the good of the people of the society as a whole, and that too selflessly. So Plato's concept of communism is not a political ideology at all, as you find in case of the Marxian ideology of communism. It is a way of life for the citizens, not all people of the state, but only for the citizens. And citizens are confined to those individual citizenship is confined to those individuals who perform the governing functions and the military functions. So it is a way of life. It is a way of life which is divested of economic motive, economic propensities, economic attitude, economic orientations. It is a pattern of life, a moral life, which Plato requires his citizens to live. It is a life of renunciation, a life of abnegation. The citizens of Plato's ideal state are required by Plato to renounce economic motive, to give up economic propensities and desires. Why? And for these people, he prescribes for a communistic life which is community oriented. And if you become community oriented, you cannot be selfish in your thinking and activities. You are expected to be completely selfless in discharging your duties and functions. If at all, you are community oriented. So selflessness is required here. This is the why of Plato's scheme of communism. Plato's scheme of communism is a way of life, divested of economic motive and propensities. And why? Because Plato requires his citizens to be completely selfless in their thinking and activities and discharging their natural functions for the good of the people of the society as a whole. If they are allowed to have economic motive and propensities, certainly they can never discharge their duties selflessly. Why? Because economic motivations tends to make the individual selfish in thinking and activities. And economic motivations, economic desires and propensities for amassing wealth, acquiring wealth and property emanate from the presence of the element of appetite in the soul of the individual. That is the natural tendency of the element of appetite, because appetite is concerned with satisfaction of bodily needs. Therefore, the economic propensities or motivations which emerge from the presence of the element of appetite, that must be controlled, must be suppressed. It cannot be eliminated because this is a natural gift. Plato understands that the element of appetite cannot be completely eradicated or eliminated from the mind or soul of the individual. It must be present there, but its evil influences must be controlled. The evil influences or the selfishness which it produces must be controlled. Then only the individual, his rulers and soldiers who are the citizens of his state, can become selfless in their thinking and activities, in discharging their natural functions, the governing function as well as the military function. Therefore, what Plato says, that his rulers and soldiers, the total body of citizens of the ideal state, must be deprived of private property and private family. These two appetitive institutions through which the element of appetite tends to flourish and tends to tarnish and blemish the element of reason and the element of spirit. So these three elements are characterized by distinctive qualities and tendencies, instincts. They pull the individual in two opposite directions. Reason and spirit, they stand together as against the element of appetite. Appetite makes the individual selfish. Reason and spirit tends to make the individual selfless. And there is a constant pull in the life of the individual, even if he is a citizen. So unless the evil influences or evil tendencies of the element of appetite is not suppressed, controlled, certainly even his rulers and soldiers can never remain pure and sublime so far as their respective predominant elements are concerned. Reason and spirit can never remain pure and sublime, he believes, if the element of appetite is not controlled. And he finds no way out, no alternative except abolishing property and family in the life of his citizens, the rulers and soldiers. If they would be allowed to have their property and family, then they will become selfish. They will come under the overpowering influence of that element of appetite. It is a very dangerous and detrimental tendencies that tends to make the individual selfish. Even it distracts the thinking and activities of the rulers and soldiers. Therefore, Plato abolishes the institution of private family and the institution of private property in the life of the rulers and soldiers, his citizens, and requires them to live and lead a community oriented life, communistic oriented life. So it is a way of life. So Plato's citizens, they are required to be community oriented. They are required to live a life of utmost sacrifice, utmost renunciation. They renounce, they abnegate property and family. Why? For the good of the people of the society as a whole. Why? For keeping their respective predominant element of reason and spirit pure and sublime, and to discharge their functions selflessly for the good of all. This is the reason. This is logic. In abolishing property and family, in the life of his rulers and soldiers, who taken together constitute the total body of citizens of his state. But at the same time, Plato understands that even in the mind of his rulers and the soul of his rulers and soldiers, the element of appetite is present, maybe to a lesser extent, maybe to a minuscule extent, but it is present. It cannot be completely eradicated. It cannot be completely removed. It can be suppressed, but it is there because his rulers and soldiers have also physical bodies. Physical bodies must be sustained, maintained, nourished, propagated. So physical needs of life must be appropriated by them. They must eat food, wear clothes, have houses to live in, and must also satisfy that desire for warmth. This is necessary, he says. So these physical needs of life cannot be eliminated because of the presence of appetite is there. So on one hand, Plato abolishes property and family. At the same time, he feels the necessity of fulfilling these physical needs of life. So what is to be done? He conceptualizes and prescribes a very unique and noble, no, it's not noble, but novel scheme of communism of property and communism of wives for his rulers and soldiers, the total body of citizens. For the citizens, he prescribes, he designs and prescribes a scheme of communism of property. He has deprived them of having private possessions and property and wealth. But he recommends that they must have communism of property in the sense that they must consider the property of the state as a whole as their own property. Therefore, the rulers and soldiers who are deprived of private possessions and properties, Plato says, must be fed by state funds. The state must come to the rescue here. The state must come to play a very important role here in providing food to its citizens, in building houses for the citizens, barracks, in which the citizens would live a common life. The state must provide them clothes to wear. But what about the necessity for fulfilling the physical needs or necessity for warmth, involving the urge for sex and procreation of human species? For solving this problem, Plato designs and prescribes a very unique scheme of communism of wives. The term communism of wives is very broadly used here by Plato. You may call it communism of husbands also. No problem. It is a communism of male citizens and female citizens, you may call in other words. So Plato prescribes for a unique scheme, unthinkable scheme then. A scheme of communism of wives for his citizens. Because they have no family. They cannot marry. They cannot have their private wives. They cannot have their children. Because possession and property would make them emotional, would flourish the element of appetite, nascent element of appetite in them, would make them selfish, and distract them from the discharge of their natural functions of governing and ruling selflessly. Therefore, Plato strikes at the emotions of his rulers and soldiers. He requires that his rulers and soldiers, as citizens, must be free from emotions. Therefore, Plato doesn't provide, Plato divorced them from having wives through marriage. He divorced them from having children, their own children. He prescribes them for he prescribes for his citizens a scheme of communism of wives, in which wives would be held in common, or husbands would be held in common. What does it mean? That so far as the total body of citizens are concerned, we also notice here two groups: the ruling group and the military group. The rulers, who represent the element of reason, they constitute the ruling class. The soldiers, who represent the element of spirit, constitute the military class. So, in the total body of citizens, also there are two classes of people: the rulers and soldiers. Within each class, there are also male. In the class of the rulers, he notices the presence of the male rulers as well as female rulers. In the military class, he also finds the presence of the male rulers and the female rulers, because he has already freed females from the drudgery of the household life. He had made them equal. He rejects the principle of gender discrimination or gender inferiority. He proclaims the principle of gender equality of his citizens. So, in the ruling class, there are male rulers as well as female rulers. Those citizens in whom the element of reason is predominant compared to the other two elements, those females, they are female rulers. In the soul of the male rulers, in whom the element of reason is predominant, they constitute the group of male rulers. Similar is the case with the military class. Group of male soldiers, group of female soldiers. So far as the point of gender is concerned, or the aspect of gender is concerned. So Plato prescribes a scheme of communism of wives, a scheme of communism of wives for the ruling class, a scheme of communism of wives for the military class as well. The male rulers would consider the group of female rulers as their common wives. The group of female rulers would consider the male rulers as their common husbands. Similarly, so far as the military class is concerned, the group of female rulers would consider, female soldiers would consider the group of male soldiers as their common husband. And the group of male soldiers would consider the group of female soldiers as their common wives. This is the scheme of communism of wives in Plato's conceptualization. And what Plato says, he prescribes for a state-controlled, state-regulated system of copulation and mating. It is state who is to decide the date, time, and the individuals, the partners who must be engaged in sexual activities for procreation of human species. This is a very novel thing, a unique concept, unthinkable during that time in Greece. Even today, it is unthinkable. You may criticize it, no problem. But Plato says so. Plato prescribes it because he finds no other alternative as to how to satisfy the element of appetite, the physical needs of life of the rulers and soldiers when he abolishes property and family from them. So Plato prescribes for a state-controlled, state-regulated, space, state-sponsored scheme of communism of wives and communism of husbands as well. The state is to decide everything. The date, time, and the partners. So far as the satisfaction of this physical need for warmth is concerned. And also here, the state needs such schemes because good human species must be produced. Physically strong soldiers must be produced. very intelligent and wise rulers must be produced, future rulers must be produced. That is the objective of Plato. So the state regulates everything. There is no privacy, there is no choice. And out of this state sponsored, state regulated, state controlled system of mating and copulation among the male rulers and female rulers, among the or between the male soldiers and female soldiers, common children would be produced. And those common children should be the future citizens of the state, says Plato. Because the members of the producing class are not considered by him as citizens, they are not given citizenship. They are merely subjects. They cannot participate in the governing function as well as the military function. They would, the producers will only concentrate themselves on producing goods and commodities. Therefore, the common children who would be produced out of the state-regulated system of copulation and mating, they would be considered as the children of the state, future citizens of the state. And just soon after their birth, they will be nursed by state nurses. They would live in state houses. They would be fed from state funds, public messes, and they will grow up there under state care. This is his scheme of communism, which he prescribes for his citizens and tries to and envisions as to how good future citizens will be produced for the good of the state, for the good of the people of the state, in the context of attainment of a life of virtue for the people of the society as a whole. Apart from this scheme of communism, which pertains to citizens, which is a negative scheme which requires the citizens to live a life of utter renunciation and sacrifice. Simultaneously, Plato conceptualizes and prescribes a scheme of education for his citizens, the future citizens, the common children which are born out of the state controlled and regulated system of mating and copulation. It is for the common children, the children of the state, the future citizens of the state, that Plato designs and prescribes a scheme of education. So scheme of education of Plato doesn't pertain to all members of the state. Members of the producing class are not allowed to have entry into the scheme of education of Plato. The scheme of education is exclusively meant for the future citizens, the common children who will grow up as a future citizens of Platonic ideal state. And it is through this system of education or scheme of education that the future citizens should be trained and educated to live an enlightened life, a life of utter selflessness, a moral life. So again, the purpose of education is inculcation of a morality in the citizens. Through a process of learning, they would be socialized, they would be indoctrinated, they would be made to learn how to lead a moral life. They would be required to be completely selfless in their thinking and activities. So this aspect must also be noted, that even the Plato scheme of education doesn't pertain to, doesn't touch or include the members of the producing class. So it is for the citizens, the future citizens of his state. He designs a scheme of education. And what is the purpose of education according to Plato? Purpose of education is not to feed external information to the students. That is what we are doing at present. You are listening to the discussions right now, and I'm feeding some information to you. Plato says, no, this is not the purpose of education, according to Plato. The purpose of education or the objective of education is not feeding external information. Rather, the purpose is to draw out the best which is inherent in the soul of the citizens, in the mind of the individual. What is inherent in the soul of the individual? The purpose of education is to discern and identify the predominant element in the soul of its citizens, to draw out the best in the citizens, and to motivate the citizens to excel in that predominant element, to excel in that natural function in conformity with the predominant element in his soul, and to discharge his natural functions to the best of his ability for the attainment of a life of virtue for the people of the society as a whole. This is the purpose of education. So the future citizens, the common children, they are to be inducted into a scheme of education, says Plato, so that the best in their soul would be brought out and they would be trained accordingly. And Plato assumes, he believes, we may question this belief of Plato. Plato believes that in the soul of his future citizens, the common children, either the element of either the element of reason or the element of spirit would be predominant, never the element of appetite. This speaks of a racial bias of Plato, prejudice of Plato, certainly. Because Plato is not concerned with the education of the members of the producing class or children of the producing class. He is concerned about the education of the common children, the children of the state, the future citizens of the state. And he believes that in the soul of those future citizens, the common children of the state, either the element of spirit is predominant or the element of reason is predominant. Because they are the children, the common children of the rulers and soldiers. And therefore, Plato says, the purpose of education is to find out whether the element of reason is predominant or spirit is predominant in that in those future children. And that can be ascertained through the scheme of education. And for these common children, the future citizens, he prescribes a scheme of education, a very long scheme of education that commences from the age of 5 of the children of the state. From age of 5, the education of the common children of the state commences, he says. And he classifies the total scheme of education into two phases. The first phase, what he terms as the elementary phase. The second phase, what he terms as the higher phase. The first phase of education, the elementary phase of education, he says, that it is education for finding out and ascertaining the predominance of the element of spirit in the soul of the common children of the state. So this is the education of the soldiers, education for finding out the soldiers among the total body of common children of the state. And the education commences from the age of 5, extends up to the age of 20. And during these years, from 5 to 18 first, the common children would be taught and educated in three major courses. First one is music. Second one is gymnastics. And third one is elementary sciences. Music, the course on music includes the study of literary masterpieces, specifically epics, which eulogize patriotism, which presents the picture of great heroes, moral personalities, and would communicate moral message to the students. So the course on music contains the study of literary masterpieces, including epics. It contains subjects like playing musical instruments, learning singing songs, playing musical instruments. It includes performing dances. So all these aspects taken together constitute the broad course on music. Plato doesn't give us the details of the topics to be included here. He only tells us only the broad aspects. Similarly, so far as the broad course on gymnastics is concerned, it includes bodily exercises. The students must be made fit physically by undergoing exercises, regular exercises. It also includes courses on diet, what type of food they would eat. Because the food is to be provided by the state to the common children. They are the future citizens. It also includes courses on medicine. If they fall ill, they must treat themselves under strategies. So courses on medicine, courses on diet, courses on bodily exercises, all these are included in the broad course on gymnastics. The purpose is to make a body free from diseases, so that the future soldiers of Plato's ideal state would be trained and skilled. They are also educated in a broad course on elementary sciences, including simple arithmetics, including a course on astronomy, a course on geography, a course on ecology. So these are the three broad courses, though details have not been spelled out by Plato, in which students, the future citizens, the common children of the state would be educated from the age of 5 till they complete the age of 18. At the age of 18, the teaching on these courses will come to an end. From 18 to 20 years of age, for these 2 years, all these common children would be given military training, rigorous military training, so that they would become fit to become the future soldiers of the state and to discharge their functions selflessly for the good of the people of the society as a whole. So 2 years of rigorous military training are given to all these future citizens. And when they complete the age of 20, after this rigorous military training, there would take place an examination, a test for these common children. In that test, those who would qualify, only they would be allowed to be admitted in the scheme of higher education. Those who would not, they would be made the soldiers of Plato's ideal state. They would be included as the members of the military class. So when at the age of 20, an examination is conducted, a test is conducted, the qualified students are allowed to be admitted into the scheme of higher education, because the education of the soldiers has now been completed. Now would commence the education of the rulers, he says, from age of 20 to the age of 35 for long 15 years. Those students who would pass in that examination conducted at the age of 20, only they would be educated in higher education. And higher education is also divided into two phases, from age of 20 to age of 30. During this phase, the students will be educated in two major courses. One is higher mathematics, including geometry, and the second one is dialectics. So these are the two broad courses in which the students will be educated. The qualified students will be educated from the age of 20 to age of 30. On completion of the age of 30, there would again be an elimination test, an examination. Those who would fail or would not qualify in that test, they would be required to go back to the military class and to become the soldiers. Because it is presumed, or it will be presumed, that the element of reason is not predominant in them, only spirit is there, and therefore they would be required to go back to the military class as its members. Those who would qualify in that examination at the age of 30, they would be admitted to the second phase of higher education. That would commence at the age of 30 and would conclude at the age of 35. For 5 long years, they would be the qualified students would be educated and trained in one subject, and that is philosophy or metaphysics. On completion of the age of 35, these qualified students would be engaged in public service. They would become the members of the ruling class provisionally, not conformed. They would be made the members of the ruling class provisionally, and they will be engaged in the governing function. They will be observed by the philosopher king regarding the performance of their functions very minutely from age of 35 to the age of 50 for long 15 years. The qualified students will be observed. Their performance would be observed. And on if their performance is satisfactory, only they would be made permanent members of the ruling class. They would be made the permanent rulers by the philosopher king at the age of 50. So from the age of 5 to the age of 50, the entire scheme of education of Plato spreads. And this is a state regulated scheme of education, state controlled scheme of education, a scheme of education which is meant only for the citizens, not at all for the subjects. And the purpose is to identify the predominance of the element of reason or the element of spirit in the soul of the future citizens, and to constitute the ruling class and the military class respectively, to train them to sharpen their predominant element for the reason or spirit, to motivate them to excel in their natural propensities, to motivate them to discharge their natural functions to the best of their ability for attainment of a life of virtue for the people of the society as a whole. So the purpose is enlightenment, a life of enlightenment. Enlightenment requires an individual. If you are enlightened, you can never become selfish. You will be selfless, community oriented. So Plato's aim is to train his citizens, future citizens, to become moral and selfless. On one hand, by abnegating, by renouncing property and family, by suppressing their emotions, and at the same time, by way of enlightening themselves and sharpening their natural, predominant natural element, either reason or spirit present in them, to make their predominant element pure and sublime, and to contribute their best for the attainment of a life of virtue for the people of the society as a whole. So these are the two interrelated schemes of Plato concerning the life of the citizens. And aim is a moral life. To make his citizens moral and selfless for the good of the people of the society as a whole. These are the two schemes. With this, I conclude today. But again, I must tell you that the discussions and the conceptualizations of Plato are very stimulating. You may agree, you may disagree. There are a number of pitfalls, there are a number of lacunae, deficiencies, shortcomings, unacceptable propositions. Yes, we know it. And I shall welcome the unacceptable propositions or your critical estimations or evaluations of on Plato's ideas only in the concluding class, not today. If you have any doubt concerning the logic of Plato, you may raise questions.
So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. This education and communism, it is provocative. It is because the purpose of Plato is all right. The end is all right. For the approach or method, what he has taken, that is deeply problematic if you see the contemporary times. Okay, I understand that the citizens or the future citizens are basically the children of philosopher, king and queen, right?
No question of queen. Only one is there.
No, I
Others
mean
are
I mean
yes.
a male and
Female
female is
rulers, female rulers and male rulers. Female
okay,
soldiers and male soldiers.
right, a male and okay, philosopher queen is not there, philosopher king is there. Okay,
Yes.
they belong
And
to the ruling class.
probably commentators they comment that probably Plato considers himself the philosopher king, and therefore keeping that in view, he has designed the model state.
Okay, they are the ruling class. In ruling class, you can find philosopher king and the other members of the ruling class, and soldiers are also part of that. And they are meeting with each other, and the children, they are the future citizens, and they will get the training.
Yes.
And in that training, it is assumed that these children are having either spirit or reason in them. And in training, basically training, this education basically is to identify what aspect in dominant in these future
Yes.
children. But how to identify who are the men of appetite? The
Yes.
scheme of education exposes that who will be the man of spirit and who will be the man of reason.
Yes.
But how to decide who will be the man of appetite?
Yes. That is the problem. That is the problem with Plato's concepts.
No, I mean, it is
He,
not.
he, he himself doesn't provide any solution to us. He simply says this will be done, but how this will be done, he himself doesn't say us. That is the problem with Plato.
No, I think the moment, see, you have defined who will be the man of spirit, who will be the man of reason. But if you don't provide who will be the man of appetite, then the entire, you
No, no,
know,
he supposes This is also a racial bias so far as Plato's conceptualizations are concerned. He believes that only Greek people, people belonging to the Hellenic races, only they are fit to become the citizens, not the subjects. Who would be the subjects then? The people of other races, other ethnicity. So this concept of Plato certainly reveals a racial bias. He is in favor of the Greeks, not in favor of other races. He
But
feels that people
but I
belonging to other racial origin, they have the element of appetite in them,
no
and
no
therefore
no no
they are unfit to become the citizens.
no. I do understand this is a biasness of the Plato, but I mean when Plato is giving any model, the model must exposes every aspect. One
Yes,
must
that's
understand
true.
the logic of the
Yes,
model. But here I
yes,
think the model of Plato is incomplete.
yes,
If you cannot provide information relating to appetite, I mean, people who are
yes,
having appetite, who will be the
mm,
man of appetite? Then,
yes,
I mean, telling who will be the man of reason or spirit, it is meaningless. It
yes,
is purely, I mean, this is not my critical understanding. This is a
yes,
major
yes.
problem
This
of
is a
the
logical
Platonic.
defect. Yes, this
This
is
is
a
a logical.
defect in Plato's conceptualization. A
Right.
defect.
This is a defect in Plato's conceptualization. Now, with
Yes,
this defect in Plato's conceptualization, should we take Plato seriously? I mean, okay, we will accept Plato, we will accept the model of Plato, but that model must be convincing.
yes, that's true. And this is what we shall discuss in the concluding class. We are free to reject him.
But again, is it correct to reject Plato?
What is the
This
utility
again,
here? What? Yes.
I'm
What is
asking
the
this
utility of
question.
Plato? Yes.
I mean, the
So
the utility, the
partly,
utility.
partly, so far as his concept of human nature is concerned, he seems to be rational, logical. But partly, so far as his composition of state is concerned, his classification of citizens and subjects are concerned, certainly we may not agree with him. These are defective concepts, certainly.
But I can say that this Plato's model of republic, this is not full-fledged, but
Yes.
some of the
Ye-
aspect of Plato's model is relevant. Is relevant.
Yes. Relevant.
Uh,
Something is relevant.
and coming to the, I mean, there is a question asked in the last class that communism of husband. I mean, this
Yes.
communism of wife, or we can say
Yes.
that it is a communism of family. Right. So
Yes.
I think the
No, not
appropriate
family.
word.
There is no family there. No concept of family. No
Ah,
concept of marriage. Yes.
I mean, the husband do not have a permanent wife. The wife will not have a permanent husband. Right.
Yes.
So family will not be there. So when I'm saying
Yes.
family will not be there, it means it is a
E-
communism
e-
of husband also.
e- Yes. That is what I say.
It is a communism of husband.
Male rulers and female rulers, male soldiers and female soldiers, they are to be held in common for the purpose of mating and copulation, for procreation of children of the state. And no one knows who is the children of whom. The father doesn't know, the mother doesn't know even. Soon after birth, the child will be taken out by the state nurses, kept in state houses.
Now, why Plato said all this? I mean, is this okay?
Only
I understand the purpose. The purpose is the selflessness,
yes.
right? But such a inhuman.
If this cannot be done, you will be emotional and you will be selfish. His purpose is to remove selfishness, to make men moral. If there is emotion, so long as there is emotion in you, you will become selfish. You cannot be free from selfishness if you are emotional. So emotions must be eradicated.
Then how Plato conceptualize life?
Emotionless way, non-emotive way. There is no place for emotions in
I think,
Plato's
sir,
concept.
it seems in your concluding lecture, it seems you will demolish Plato.
Yes.
Okay. If at the conclusion we are going to demolish Plato, then in this last, 3 or 4 classes, is it right to take Plato seriously?
Yes, certainly. We must understand him first. Then we may demolish him. No problem. We may accept what suits us. We may reject what doesn't.
But the model must be complete. It is a very
Yes,
incomplete model. It's an
there is,
incomplete model.
yes, in incomplete model. And that is also true in case of all thinkers. Why you accuse Plato? In case of all political thinkers, the problem is there. They're not complete in themselves. They're not full-fledged. Partly they are right, partly they are wrong. So you can find presence of shortcomings, limitations, lacunae, defects, deficiencies, logical inconsistencies in all thinkers, starting
But
from
sir,
Plato.
you said Plato is the first feminist. But
Yes.
what about the female part of appetite class?
He's not concerned about the appetite class. He's not at all.
They are the
He
subject.
says,
They is concerned about the
yes,
citizen, not the subjects.
citizens only, not the subjects. Subjects are bound to produce because they are members of the state, they are bound to produce, but they cannot participate in the governing function and the military function. They cannot have education as designed by Plato. So they are deprived of education. They are deprived of
Do they
participation.
do they need education? Appetite class?
Plato is not concerned about them. Let them go to hell. Who cares for them?
Then how Plato brought a
Plato is
linkage
concerned
between
about
the
the Greeks. Plato is exclusively concerned about the Greeks,
hey,
whom he
what is the
considers as the
relation?
citizens.
What is the relation between the citizen and subject in Platonic political thought?
They are just like servants, auxiliaries. They will only produce goods, commodities, food articles to be consumed by all members of the state.
And this is what the citizens expects from the
Yes,
subjects,
yes,
and in return subject expects from the citizen a fair system.
yes,
Okay. And subjects are quite satisfied with the citizen, and citizens
yes.
are satisfied with the
So
subject.
certainly, everyone will be satisfied. Plato believes. But again, this will not be the fact or reality. We shall discuss it in the concluding class.
I do understand. See, the moment we bring our modern society and then we try to understand Plato, then things are getting problematized. So
Yes.
let's understand Plato
It's
in his
not
own
possible.
model.
It is not at all possible to implement Plato's model. Not at all.
Okay.
It is it
Uh,
is it is very good to hear. Very difficult to be practiced. Not possible to practice.
that is true. That is true. So let me go back to the questions asked in the chat box. One question is asked, sir, as you said that the children of the rulers and soldier class will be taken care by the state. Sir, did not Plato tell anything regarding the children of producing class for taking
Yes,
care of?
I've already told you. This is exclusively a scheme meant only for citizens, not for the subjects.
Okay,
Subjects is
Gupta,
not the concern of Plato.
right. Gupteswar sir is very clear that Plato has talked about education in connection to citizen, not to the subjects. Right.
Yes.
And this producing class, since they belong to the subject class, he has not talked about education either for their women or children. Right. But it is a question to Plato which has not been addressed by him, that how to identify the
Yes.
artisan class or the producing class. So Plato has not,
He has
responded
become
to
he's
this.
completely he's remained silent. He's not concerned. He has not concerned himself with this problem.
Okay. The second question is that scheme of communism is not for the producer class. They have their private family and children, so the children
Yes,
are cared by their father and mother.
yes. Plato allows the members of the producing class to have their property and family.
And these two are the corrupted institution. At the same time, philosopher kings are expected to, you know,
Yes.
spread
And
morality and ethics in the society.
yes, the philosopher king is to keep the producing class under control, utmost control. Philosopher king is therefore the authoritarian ruler. He imposes his decisions. If they will not, they will be forced to obey.
I mean, if a question will be asked why Plato
Hmm.
provided the producing class to have family and property, if family and property are the two corrupted institutions, and these
Because
two corrupt,
because the members of the producing class represent the element of appetite, and appetite is related to institutional property and family. Therefore, they are allowed to have property and family.
many appetite are also there with reason and
But
spirit class.
yes, but predominant element is either
But
reason or spirit.
state
Hmm.
controlled the reason and spirit class. But state gave a license to the appetite class to have family and children. Why?
Yes, but because they represent, there is predominance of the element of appetite in them,
Is
and
it because
appetite, yes,
Plato was
a-
interested
epi,
in production? So that's
yes,
why the appetite class, if they will have
Pro-
family and private property, that
yes.
means ultimately it will raise the production of the country.
Certainly, manpower is necessary to produce, to do physical work.
Property and manpower both are
Yes,
necessary. Both
both
are
are necessary.
necessary to produce.
Yes.
Okay, so okay. The next question is that who will take care or take the responsibility of common wives?
State. State will take the care because they are the citizens. So everything is to be decided by the state.
And
It
who
is
will
state
take care of the
sponsored.
who will take care of the ruling class? State.
State, everything. The state will take care of the citizens. It will provide them food, clothes, shelter, warmth,
So the state,
education.
no, no, state will fix which partner will mate with which partner.
Yes, everything.
What
The
is that
date,
principle?
the date, time, venue, partners, everything will be decided by the state.
But
You do not have any option.
agree, but on what basis?
Plato doesn't say so.
It's arbitrary.
Arbitrary.
Now, when
It
I'm
is only
saying state,
it,
when
it
I'm
is
saying,
only the
okay, I
philosopher
got
king.
it.
Philosopher king
But
can only decide.
so the philosopher king arbitrarily decide
Yes,
which ruling class. When I'm saying ruling class, it is mean man of spirit and man of reason. Which
yes.
ruling class will mate with which ruling, you know,
Female, male or
female,
female. Hmm.
male or female.
Yes,
Arbitrarily, they will decide.
yes, yes.
And in his or her entire life, the child will not know who is the
Who is
mother
his
and who is the father.
father? Yes.
Okay, so hand is raised. Kriti Krishna Sahu, you can unmute your video and audio and you can ask.
Thank you, sir. So already,
You unmute your audio video.
okay, sir. Sir, I want to say that ଯେ କି sir already କହିଛନ୍ ଯେ କି
Speak in English.
with the okay, sir. With the mat of male and female, which babies are born,
Hmm.
they are only take care by the state, and
Yes,
they are belong to the or the spirit or the reason.
yes. This is the assumption of
The
Plato. He believes, that is
yes,
his belief.
yes, sir.
He
Yes,
believes that either the element of spirit or the element of reason would be predominant in the soul of these common children.
yes,
So
sir.
he tries to find out through the system of education whether reason is predominant or spirit is predominant. From age of 5 to the age of 20, he finds out the predominance of spirit. From age
Yes,
of
sir.
30 to 35, I find. So the predominance of region. So these are the
Yes.
two phases of education. Specifically, these are the system of education for the rulers and system of education for the soldiers.
Yes. So the appetite class cannot be entered in ever in
Yes,
the
yes.
higher.
Not at all, not at all.
Not a, that's my question. Plato
Yes.
thinks that the upper class will be the upper class and the lower class will be the lower class.
Yes,
There is no
permanent. There is class rigidity. You cannot move from one class to another. No.
the always the appetite class will be the appetite class and the
Yes.
always be the spirit and
Yes, that is the
reasoning class.
basic assumption, basic postulates of Plato.
Okay, sir.
Like Kriti
Okay,
Krishna,
sir. Thank you, sir.
initially, the remark what I gave, it exposes there is a, problematic situation in Platonic model. See, how to define in the very beginning, right? How to define who is the man of reason, who is the man of spirit, who is the
Yes.
man of appetite. Okay, the
Yes, sir.
scheme of education, or okay, the scheme of education has, has given a scope to identify the man of spirit and man of reason. But then how to decide who are the men of appetite? Now, Plato is silent on that. And
Completely silent.
this silence exposes his model is incomplete.
Yes.
But yes,
Yes, sir.
the part of Platonic model is relevant. There are learning. One can learn
Yes.
from the Plato.
That is what we shall conclude in the concluding class.
Yes,
Not
sir.
now. Wait for. Think of his concepts.
Hmm.
So
And then
another question is asked, if there is a need for one and only philosopher king, then what is the need to teach so many people?
how can he rule alone? He must be assisted by a few individuals. The members of the ruling class are there.
See, so many peoples are taught in order to know who are the men of spirit and men of reason. So
Yes.
men of spirit, they will be sent for fighting for the country.
Oh,
They will
yes,
become the
fighting for
soldier,
yes.
right? And the men of reason, the top individual will be the philosopher king, and the
Yes.
rest they will be part of statecraft,
Mm.
and they will assist the philosopher king to implement the rules and regulation. But
But but but yes.
what should be the rule? It will be solely decided by the philosopher king. Philosopher
Yes.
king does not need any advice. He is expert. But it sounds very I mean, not good to our ear. I mean, is it really possible to have that kind of philosopher king today? A person who is,
Think think of
except Lord Krishna, who can be the philosopher king?
they think
Every
of this
individual.
problem. They think of this problem and think by yourself.
Okay. So
And then
today,
come to conclusion after 10 days. Come to conclusion after 10 days.
the Borsa is asking many questions. Okay. Again, she has wrote these questions. Are Plato deprived the producer class from education? Then how producer class can get a chance to become philosopher king? I mean,
How can
he will
he?
not get.
Ah,
He will not.
Arre,
Yes, there is a system of.
you must understand the
No, no,
basic
I mean,
premise.
no. What she has written at the last.
No class movement, no class
No,
mobility. There is class rigidity. Once you are
I
fixed
mean,
to become a member of the ruling class, you will remain as a ruler forever.
Barsa, I am just asking you a counter question. What do you mean by system of mobilization of labor? Do you think that this mobilization of labor was prevailing in, I mean, at that time, or in Plato's political thought that mobilization of labor was permissible? Yes, sir, I have studied. Where you have studied?
Hmm. Wrong ଜିନିଷ ଗୋଟେ ପଡୁଛି. No.
Where you have studied? Can you give the reference of the book?
Read standard books.
Our sir said that. Who is your sir? Name him. Name him. Who is your sir?
କୋଉ କଲେଜରୁ ପାସ୍ କରିଛେ? From which college have you passed? ବର୍ଷା
Panchayat
ପଞ୍ଚାୟତ
College, Bargarh.
କିଏ ପଢେଇଛି? Who was
Bargarh.
your teacher?
So,
Who was your
who was
teacher?
teaching? Vijay Kumar Nag. Okay, I know
He,
Vijay. Vijay was my junior, but it is, I mean, he has incorrectly, said it.
let
This
him
mobile.
read. Let him read standard books. He must not consult the third-rate meaning books or key books available in the market.
System of mobilization of labor, I mean,
No, 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 not at
nowhere
all.
it is
Nowhere.
related to Plato's political
Nowhere.
thought.
That is completely a alien
So
concept.
okay, I got it. What do you mean by mobilization of labor? No, I am asking and you are writing. Why not you join us? Varsa, you join us. You just unmute your audio. Okay, he's writing no, sir. So he prefers to write, not to speak. Okay. So do one thing. You once again talk to your teacher, Vijay, and get a clarification from him and say that that mobilization of labor is not an idea which is compatible with the Platonic political thought. Nowhere it is not compatible. So thank you, sir. That's it. I mean, one thing today, I got to know that this Plato's model of, republic or model state, it is not complete, it is incomplete.
Yes, yes. And that will also you find in case of each and every political thinker or philosopher. That is so. No one is complete.
Then my question to you, then why you said that Western political thought is political thought, not Indian political thought? See, if the models are incomplete, if the
Yes, but
models
but
are
but but
incomplete,
but, but, but they have conceptualized their thinking coherently in a distinct pattern on human nature, then origin of state, then nature of state, end of state, structure of government, functions of government, state individual relationship, and then issues of rights, liberty, justice, etc. So, in a coherent way, they have presented their thinking. Therefore,
okay, I
we call
got
it
it.
thought.
See, if it is coherent, if it is comprehensive, then how it is
But not
incomplete?
complete. No, it is incomplete in the sense that we find a number of defects,
So are you saying,
deficiencies.
sir, are you saying that a
This is not a
comprehensive,
foolproof model, and therefore, none of this model, from Plato to Marx or even to Rawls, none of these models have been accepted and implemented in reality. That is the problem. No model is foolproof.
so you are saying a comprehensive model may be incomplete in nature,
Yes.
but still then
Incomplete
we
in the
can say
sense
that
incomplete in the sense that it contains defects, inconsistencies.
a defect is something else. See,
Hmm.
incomplete means a coherence must be there. The
Yes,
story must start and end.
they have written it coherently. They've touched these essential
But
aspects
I
of thought.
think Plato's Plato's this education or communism, it is not complete in the sense that somewhere it is just stopped. Plato has not said anything about it.
Yes, 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 yes.
It's a different kind of defects actually. I will say
Hmm.
that this is not comprehensive at all because Plato is not concluding it. Plato is not ending it. We are listening a story, but we are not listening the last, the full
He,
story.
he, he concentrates only on the citizens whom citizenship is given according to him only to the Greek people, not to
I
other
understand.
persons.
I
Yes.
understand.
So he concentrates on citizens.
So far as citizen is concerned, his model is okay. It is
Yes,
understandable. But
yes,
he has mentioned about the, appetite class.
yes, they are helpers.
Now, how to identify him? How to identify who?
Yes, yes. He says that people of non-Greek races who are members of the state, they would be the subjects.
Again, you are going back to the society, right? That
Yes,
may be
yes,
his purpose, but
yes.
in his model, how to what is the theoretical way to identify
No, no, no
the
theoretical way. No, no,
no?
no
That's
theoretical way.
why I said that Plato is also biased,
Yes,
and
that is what I
somewhere
am telling.
he was
He-
trying to bring bias, and maybe because of that bias, he could not complete the theory
Yes,
or that
maybe,
model.
maybe, maybe, maybe.
Maybe because of
He has a tremendous racial prejudices,
agree.
and
So okay,
that
sir,
is the problem. That is
in
the
the
problem
next
with it.
class, what you will sir deal
I shall discuss on his concept of justice.
in the next class. Okay. So with this, on behalf of our department, I am thanking you for your engagement with us. It is provocative, and I will say that somewhere our student got a sense that how Plato's scheme of communism or education, it is comprehensive. At the same time, it is incomplete,
Yes,
right? So uh, the contradictory, character is attached with scheme of education and scheme of
community.
communism. So
Yes.
that is a very good learning of today's lecture,
You,
and we
you,
all are
you will notice your logical inconsistencies because it is self-contradictory.
it is contradictory. It is contradictory. So maybe
That
in
is
the
that is
last class will
that
be
would be our critical evaluation in the concluding class.
last class on this Plato's political thought is going to be very very interesting.
Yes,
Uh,
and students must prepare because they must listen to the discussions from first to up to the next class, up to the discussions on justice, and in the
right.
last class, in the concluding class, they will participate and I will listen.
Okay, good. I hope that student will participate, and
Yes,
I urge the students to. I mean, they are writing their question. It is good. For the next step, would have been that you try to create your strength so that you can unmute your audio and video, and you can directly
yes, yes.
confront us, directly talk to us, directly debate with us, directly ask question to us. So it will boost your confidence, right?
Yes, they
So
will debate, they will discuss, they will debate in the concluding class, and I will listen to what they discuss and how logically they discuss, how relevantly they discuss.
right. So with this, I am ending this event.
Yes.